Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I want to talk about something that I don't hear many preppers talk about, but I want to make a point about this, and we're going to talk about just a humble walking stick. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but today I want to talk about 20 survival things you can do with just a regular walking stick. I've made a video about this in the past, but those were more like hiking sticks, and I will tell you what advantages and disadvantages are of them. But if you think about a walking stick, first I want to talk about what is a walking stick and contrary to a regular stick, because I have been in during hikes. I used some sticks that I found on the way, but I also used hiking sticks. But if we're really talking about not comfort but survival uses, I prefer this kind of stick, as you can see. So what is different about this? First of all, as you can see, the stick is about 1.5 meters long. And why is that important? Because it's in balance. As you can see, it comes around here, so I don't have to go up with my hands, so that can take a little bit more effort and is a little bit annoying, but for other people it's just great. But in my opinion, it is more like a resting position that you can just lean onto instead of pulling down if you're going too high up. Another thing about the 1.5 meter is important is, I don't know, this is perhaps not of count in other countries, but here in Belgium, if you are walking with a stick that is longer than 1.5 meters, it's considered a weapon. So yeah, that's something that you need to know about the Belgian law, that yeah, it's not really something that they will really look at it, but if an officer gives you a wrong eye and they want to get a quota of fines, they can fine you for that, or make it a little bit difficult for you. So 1.5 meter is very important. Another thing, as you can see, is this leather lash that is hanging around it. That is very important in my opinion for several reasons. First of all, if you are falling, you will not lose your stick, especially if you're how do you say this, going on difficult paths in mountainous or hill terrain, and you will lose your stick when it falls. If you let go or slip, yeah, that could be a little bit annoying. So always have this leather strip that you can do a task, as you can see, take your map, read it, put it back, and that way you will not have to juggle with your stick to find a place to rest it against or get it dirty on the ground. So that's another important thing. What is also important is, if you are on a more hill or mountainous terrain and you need to use the stick for balance to get yourself up, it's very handy that this leather strap is something that will prevent you from slipping through on the whole stick. So that gives you a more push to push yourself up if you're going on a very steep terrain. So that's another important thing about it. And one of the last more important things is the tip. It is an iron tip. I would say the harder the metal, the better, because as you can see, this will go onto streets, it will go on cassette stones, it will go onto rock, like in hills and other hard terrain. So yeah, those are things that it will have to endure, and if you don't have that, yeah, that could be turned into, that will split your walking stick very fast, I can tell you. So, and another thing I would say is, make grooves into your stick. Why? As you can see, so you can roll up some paracord around it, and then you have extra cordage. So those are the most important features a walking stick should have. And now I will show you some demonstrations about all the things you can do with a walking stick. So one of the things that you can do with a walking stick is use it as an improvised compass, and we use the shadow technique for it. So what you want to do, and you should do this more during a break, because this will take like 50 minutes. What you do is, you take your stick, you plant it into the ground, and you see where the shadow will fall. You place a stone over there at the end of the mark of the shadow, and I know there is not much sun today, so I will have to improvise this. And where the stone is, you wait for 50 minutes, and the shadow will move, and after around 50 minutes you will place a second stone at that point, and you connect the stones, and those are the east-west line, and that way you can find your direction as an improvised compass that way. Another thing that you can do is, if you have sprayed your ankle, that could be a little bit annoying to put some pressure or weight on that ankle. So a walking stick can help you use to relieve some pressure of your ankle that is sprained. So that's another thing you can do. So another important thing that you can do with a walking stick is just push some harmful plants out of the way. Like, if you can see, stinging nettles, thistles, you could have thorns or from bare bushes. Those could be annoying to walk through. So with a walking stick you don't have to use your feet. You can just use the walking stick to clear a little path to push it out of the way, so you don't get cuts or stings from poisonous plants, stinging nettles, or bare bushes that will lead to infections or pain or discomfort. So another thing that you can do is, if there is so-called high-hanging fruits, so to say, you can use the walking stick to get it off if you can't reach it. So, for example, fruits, nuts, or some other things that you can just use it to knock it off or something like that. Perhaps in an emergency case, some honeycomb from a bee nest. So yeah, that is also a handy thing to use your stick for. Another thing I want to mention is, I perhaps said it before, but the paracord around your rope, around your stick, that's the reason why I should put grooves into my stick, so that I can put the paracord around it without it falling off when so it has more enough tension, or how to say this, resistance to stick around the walking stick, and that way you can have extra paracord, or you can use it for if you're going to build a shelter, and yeah, that way you have it directly at hand, and you always have a certain amount of rope that you don't have to get out of your backpack. And what I also like is that I have some weight on my stick. Some people say that your stick should be as light as possible. That's why they like hiking sticks. But to be honest, I prefer a stick that has a little bit weight of them, because it's not only a little bit more sturdy, it's also a little bit more pleasant for the hand, that I can use the momentum of the walking stick to walk in front, instead of it flying around, twisting my wrist. And I let the weight do a little bit of the work, and that will give a little bit more comfort to my wrist and my hand in that way. So that's what I found important. Opinions can be different about this, but that is my opinion about it. So another important thing is that you use it to measure depth. I know that it's just a small puddle to next to the road, but it made me think that if you're going on a hike and there is a lot of mud, or during a bug out, I made a video about this where the fields around the road were just saturated with water, and it was more like a swamp. So if there is a swamp, a deep mud, a quicksand or whatever, you can use this walking stick to measure the depth of the water in front of you, so that you will not be getting any surprises of the depth, because sometimes you think, oh, it's only like a few centimeters deep, but sometimes there is a pit that you cannot see because of the muddy water, and you don't really want to fall into that. There are a lot of videos about people who step into water, they think it only goes to their ankles, and then suddenly they fall with their whole body into the water by surprise. And with a walking stick you can check everything in front of you before you do that. And that is not only useful for water or mud, but also for dangers. What am I talking about? For example, if you are walking in high grass, like something like this, and yeah, if you live in an area where there are snakes or some other very harmful creatures, you can use it to watch in front of you to see if there are any animals, and that way you can walk during high grass without scaring or getting surprise attacked by a snake or something like that. So that could be useful in certain areas. Here in Belgium we don't really have snakes, so that's not really a problem, but I can imagine in other countries they are. So that is also a handy purpose of a walking stick. Yeah, one of the most important things of a walking stick is keeping balance and to distribute weight. So now I don't wear my heavy bug-out bag, but if I'm going hiking, I always notice that I use less energy and have more balance on the rocky or the imbalanced terrain. That because you have three legs in a way. So that way you can, if you're going to hunch over a little bit, you can use it to distribute the weight from your shoulders or your back a little bit more to your arm that way, and that way you will have less strain. Yeah, there's just a plane flying above me. Oh, so yeah, balance is very important, because if you're going on uneven terrain, rocky terrain, mountainous terrain, or just any forest, and you don't have good balance, there is a chance you will fall, get hurt, you will sprain your ankle or something like that, and that's something that you really don't want during a hike, a bug out, or a survival scenario. So distributing weight and balance, one of the most important things a walking stick can do. So if you can see, hopefully you can see, what you can also do is, if you want to hang your backpack higher up to prevent that insects or small rodents will eat your food or now on your backpack, what you can do with the walking stick is you can put it onto the carrying straps like this. You can use two branches that are a little bit forked, but in this case there is only one, so I hanged some rope around this. I'll put this around here, this here, and that way I can hang my backpack to the tree, out of reach out of animals and from the wet and dirty muddy ground that is around here. So that's another thing you can do with a walking stick, and from the moment you need to leave you can just take it up and get out of there in just a few seconds. So that's another thing you can do with a walking stick. So this is, as you can see, a very improvised shelter, but it's just to take cover beneath it out of the rain. So I put the end of the walking stick on the forked part of the tree. The other one I just put around with one rope, and that way you have an improvised small shelter where you can take refuge from the rain. So yeah, that is just a small thing that you can do as a support or a improvised tent pole for building an improvised shelter. Alright, another thing you can do with it is, if you want to carry some extra stuff, food or whatever you find, perhaps some wild game like birds, rodents, or perhaps a small deer, you can carry it on your back like this. It's like a hobo style, like if you can see, and that way you can distribute the weight by using it as a lever to rest on your shoulder. But sometimes even this can weigh too small, way too much, and that's also the reason why I always say to use a thick enough stick out of good material, like oak or something, because if this bends or breaks with a little bit weight, that could be a problem. So if you want to distribute the weight a little bit, you can use it like this and rest it on both of your shoulders like this, and that way it's a little bit more in balance, especially if you have to travel on a uneven terrain, and that way you can also have your hands a little bit free to do perhaps a task, carry it like that. But general, this is a comfortable way to carry some bigger stuff around without tiring your arms and such. But your back, that's another problem if you're carrying too much stuff, and you can even do it like two ways, one on your back, I don't know if you can see this, one on your back, middle of your shoulder, and the other in front. So that way your balance in front or back is also a little bit more distributed. So that's another thing you can do. So another thing you can do is use it for self-defense. That's the reason why also this is prohibited in Belgium to carry a stick that is longer than 1.5 meters, because otherwise you can use it like from that martial art, judo. So that's also the reason why I say that you should have a metal tip, not only for that it will not split at the bottom, but you can use it as a small makeshift spear to keep someone at distance, especially if that person is armed. You can also use it to smack a person. If you know some judo techniques, the beginning, that's very handy to, even with a small stick, smack a devastating blow on the wrist, the face, or another sensitive part of an aggressor or attacker, that you can just go back and smack it. Use the centrifugal forces to really smack it. And I can assure you, if you get a smack like that on your wrist, you will not be doing that much attacking, or at least thinking twice to attacking someone. Same thing goes with the iron tip to keep someone at bay. And you can also retrieve and go back stepward. So some basic judo techniques could be very handy for that. And even in close quarter combat, if the person is really close to you, you can just, even if they are just in front of you, do some devastating blows. So yeah, with some imagination, a little bit training, you can do some very good self-defense. Another thing that is very important is, if you are in a building and there is, how do you say this, if you want to get out or get in for scavenging, use the metal tip to bash in a window without the risk of cutting yourself or getting some glass splinters in your eyes or onto your hands. So just a quick smack, and when the glass is cracked, you can use the stick to get to rip to do on the sides the glass shards away a little bit, and that way you can enter that building without much risk to cutting yourself and getting infections that way. So that's another thing. I know this will sound a little bit too Kung Fu Panda-like situations, but if you are in a building for whatever reason, for scavenging, you're in the building for just daily work or whatever it is, and the lights fall out, it's a blackout, or even during the night when you have to be stealthy, or it's not only in a building, it can also just be in a forest. If it's pitch dark, you can use the stick like a blind person to find a way, and you can detect objects before you're walking against them, especially if they are pointy or very dangerous objects that might hurt you. So in a dark situation, I would prefer to have something to feel around and know where I'm going not to walk against. That is very important in that regard. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but if your strap is sturdy enough and your stick too, there is an old ninja method to climb higher walls where they put it in the ground and they use the leather strap around it to put their feet in and use it as a small step ladder to scale a higher wall to be able to reach it. And what you also can do is, on the strap you can bind a rope onto your hand, and when you scale the wall, you're on the wall, you can retrieve your climbing stick, so to say, that way. So another thing that you can do is, for climbing, is if you are very good at climbing but another party member of the bug out scenario perhaps not, that person can and give you a little boost. You can climb up, and when you're up, you can use the stick as a sort of extension to give some grip to the other person and help them, give them more grip to climb together on the wall. So that's another thing you can do with it. So if you're going to signal for help, the bigger you are, the further you can be seen. So if you have any material, if it's a jacket like this, a reflective blanket, emergency blanket, anything that is visible, you can use it as an improvised, oh yeah, but you have to tie it better than this. You can see further away and wave for help, for example. So that way you can signal a party, search party, or perhaps signaling a member of your bug out party member group or your Mac. So if your boots or your shoes are very wet and you want to dry them during the sleep or during a break, what you can do with the stick is, first of all, you can use a stick to plant it into the ground and just hang your shoe on top of it. But the problem is, if you need two sticks for this, or perhaps you can hang your other shoe on top of it so the wind can blow a little bit to the side like this, from this side. But if you want to dry them both, what you can do is, on each end you can hang, I don't know if you can see it if it's white because of the light. So that way you can dry both your shoe and hang it onto some branches on the tree, and that way your both of your shoes can dry a little bit before you're putting them back on and dry them. Another first aid thing you can do is use it as a spalk. So if your arm is broken and you have multiple fractures and you cannot move your arm, you cannot even put it into a sling, and you need to immobilize it, you can use the walking stick as a way to bind it, put something between it that it's a little bit softer, bind it, and that way you will help immobilize your arm, that you will not do any more damage. In a worst case scenario, for first aid to somebody else, perhaps, if somebody else is their neck or their back, perhaps there is a fracture or broken, you can use it to stabilize their head, bind it together with their body so they cannot start to twist or move their head and do more damage, and you can wait for professional medical help. But that is the worst case scenario that you can do. But those are things that you can do with the stick. So these were my options that you can do with the walking stick survival uses. So if you got any other, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn new techniques, perhaps things that I have not thought about it or found from any other prepper. So please let me know that. I'm always eager to learn. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope this will help you. So bye, I see you in the next video. Cheers.